guys, I'm going to show you a little tour here of my 1987 winter tournament bass boat. I've had this boat for probably going on about 8 years now, and just wanted to give you a quick tour of what it is. And actually they were really good boats for their day, and just want to give you a little tour here. It's I believe mine is 18 foot 6 inches long, and it's on a single axle trailer. It's a Mercury 150 XR6, and had some issues with that when we first bought it. But anywho, this is my girl here. Of course, it's a little rough. There are some rough spots in it, but I mean, overall it's a good boat. Like I said, when they built these boats, they were one of the first composite hulls that were built. Rumor has it that a lot of the other hull manufacturers actually copied their design. There was a patent issue, and I believe that Winter actually went out of business back in the 90s. I believe was the last time that they were actually sold in dealerships, and I believe they were Dickerson, Tennessee, I believe. I can't, don't quote me on that, but anywho, this is my boat here, and just going to go through here. You know, the seats, these are from bass boat seats, and they've obviously been redone, and I had the bracing and all the other stuff. I'm pretty sure that this boat actually had a bench seat in it, but I'm not exactly sure, or I can't remember, because it wasn't like that when I first bought it. So, but for an 18.5 foot boat, it's actually not bad. You can see it's got compartments under the seats. Like I said, this seat just kind of stiffs in there. You got your rod locker in here. Like I said, it'll hold some rods, and generally what I found is that this boat won't hold anything more than or any rods longer than like a 7.2, 7.4. You might be able to get it in there. But I'll tell you, all the longer rods stay down here on this side, and my shorter, my 6.6s, 6.8s, generally stay over on that side. But this is one of the deck extensions that I actually built. It was actually built out of wood. It was fiberglassed, resined. It's got some age on it. It needs some attention. All the other compartments, life jackets, and necessity for boating in there. And then over here on this side, I got some of my tackle in there, a bunch of rod boxes. And so if you have any questions about how I actually did this deck extension, it's actually pretty sturdy. It works really well for what it is, and it really adds a lot, because you can see that this all was actually cut out. There was a seat over on that side that was all removed, and then that has all my plastics in it. It actually has some other compartments in here. It's my trash from last outing. Don't pay any attention to that. But anywho, a lot of the other stuff, I've got a Minn Kota. It's a Maximum Pro. It's an 80 pound, which is more than enough to pull this boat in any kind of wind condition. I've been on the water when the wind is really howling, 30 miles an hour, and this trolling motor has absolutely no problem pulling the boat wherever you need to go. Now, the one goofy thing about my boat is I actually have the longer shaft. I have a 54-inch shaft, I believe, just because I bought it used, and yeah, the price was worth it. And but it still works really well for the longer shaft. It's not that big of a deal. And like I said, you can see that my boat has been neglected over the years, but that's kind of how I got it. So going back around here, like I said, the single axle trailer, like I said, it's all C-channel, which is really good. Redid the trailer, I think about 2 or 3 years ago. I noticed that there was a tracking issue. The tires were going bald on the one side, and of course took the boat off the trailer and redid all that, painted the trailer, fixed any issues, all new LED lights and all that other good stuff. But anyways, that's all good to go. Single axle trailer, still got the diamond plate and the rollers that kind of help line you up, and when you're putting her back on the trailer. Got my compartments back here in the back. This one I actually reconfigured So generally they open up from the other side, and I'll go around to the other side, but this one actually opens backwards because when I put these seats in, you can see they sit back a lot further than what the stock ones do, and they sit up a lot higher. So it worked okay for the driver's side, but I always had a problem opening this. So I put the hinge on the other side. Like I said, generally that hinge will go over here on this side. I'll put it up there on that side. And we'll walk back around. It's my 2004 Mercury XR6. It's carbed, and my original 1987 lower unit. I run a 25 pitch Mercury Tempest Plus on the standard stock gearbox, 6-inch manual jack plate. And jack plate makes all the difference in the world, especially on this boat. It's got dual tanks, one on each side. You got one here. You got one over here on this side. For each one of the tanks on each side, it's kind of a pain, but it's better to be safe than sorry. It's tank number 1, tank number 2, and see this side. Go around and see that's my second compartment. Keeps all my dry clothing in there, but you see how this hinge opens up on this side just because, but this seat actually sits up a lot higher, if you can see. So that's why that had to be done. Middle compartment is live well. It might actually had the factory divider in it. I believe that's factory. It comes in handy. Definitely use that a lot. And there's another little compartment up here that is, I don't know why they had 2 live wells in here, but you can see it's kind of grimy in there. But anyways, you can see I've got it plugged off just so it doesn't fill with water. If I get too much weight in the front, she doesn't like to ride too well. So, and I've got my foot controlled, and I installed this myself. Got one of the kits off I think it was eBay or one of the other stores or whatever, and that makes all the difference in the world. It definitely helps my back. Some of the other things that I've obviously new plugs for the trolling motor. Some of the other stuff I've kind of had to do away with, and then this is just miscellaneous deck lighting and stuff. And then you have your courtesy light. You can actually control the aerator from up at the bow of the boat, and you've got your tilt trim in the event that you get in some skinny water, and instead of running back to the throttle control, you can just get it from the bow of the boat, which is definitely convenient. The other thing is that this boat didn't have a lot of rod hold downs, and like I said, I got these from Bass Pro Shop. I think they're like $4 or $5 a piece. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4 for each side because it keeps them from kind of bouncing around. This is an old Humminbird 859. It's just got the sonar and the GPS on it, which is all that I basically need because I only use water temperature and depth when I'm out fishing with the standard Humminbird puck. Again, this is probably old technology, but it does what I need it to do, and it works good for me. So I have my my graph up here on the console, which is a Humminbird 899, and it has side imaging, it has GPS and all that other good stuff. It has down imaging and 2D, and for this I definitely use the charts, and you do a lot of graphing looking for brush piles and whatnot. The side imaging definitely comes in handy, and that is actually connected to my jack plate, which I used to make these transducer mounts quite a few years ago, but I stopped doing them just because Humminbird always comes out with a new mount and all that other good stuff, so stop doing that. So this is for your fill of the live well, and then back here on the other side you have the same one for the one up front, which is not really necessary. And you can also see I have my this one is for the spare live well up front, which I've never used, and I keep it blocked off just to keep all or as much water out of there as I possibly can. And take you another tour around here. So in my battery compartment, I run a 24 volt trolling motor setup, which is my trolling motor, and then my main battery. And these are all Group 27 batteries. I haven't had a need to upgrade these or to make them any more. Like I said, 8-9 hours on the water, and it seems to be more than enough. Even that battery running live well pumps, graphs, all that stuff all the time. Never had a problem. Those batteries are probably about 2 or 3 years old, and I still have my onboard Bass Pro Shop XPS 3-bank charger. Does 5 amps each battery, and it, again, like I said, I bought that thing probably 8 or 9 years ago, maybe not quite that long, but you know, it's worked and it served me well for what I do. Haven't had a need to upgrade any of that stuff. And let's see here, let's go back around, let's look at the bow. What else did I do? I've got one thing that definitely comes in handy too is the keel shield. I installed it probably about 3 or 4 years ago after trying to beach the boat on some rocks and wasn't very smart. So I went ahead and I installed those, and those are worth every penny, no matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing. You're always going to need that regardless, just in case. So winter logo, it's a little dirty. Like I said, the trailer's been repainted. And I'll take you around to the console. And so down here we have our remote drain control. Essentially, it just lets water in and out of the live well whenever you need it. I find it easier to just pump the water in and pump the water out, and I generally try to leave it closed as long as I possibly can. And going back around here, so we'll look at all of my gauges have been replaced. I've replaced them with I think it was Teleflex gauges, and I originally did these when I first got the boat. And so the speedometer is basically useless because I'll show you here, that water pickup tube right there, it doesn't like to stay in there, so I just whatever. I've got GPS on my graph and on my Humminbirds, and so I don't really worry about it. RPMs are always important. RPMs, water pressure, and then my trim gauge and my fuel gauge, which is original to the boat because the original one that I had stopped working. So not a big deal. So over here on the other side, let's go over here. Got your water temperature, and you got your battery voltage. You got your aerator, your bilge pump, which is always handy. Then you have your navigation lights. This right fuel tank, it just it's a different sender for each tank. So it's the right tank. Let's turn the panel on, that helps. So I got my left tank. You can see I got plenty of fuel in there. The right tank, not so much fuel in there. So, but so that's what the fuel switch does. And so my boat is it's powered by a 2004 Mercury XR6 that's carved. Currently, I'm running a 25 pitch Tempest Plus, which is phenomenal lift for this boat. Even with the amount of stuff that I have in it, it runs really, really good. At least from my understanding, for a 150. Just a standard load with me running down the lake, I can touch about 61 if I take out the 300 pounds of stuff that are irrelevant to what I'm doing in fishing or what's catching fish, and I'd probably go a little bit faster. But I've got a great hole shot. Even with 2 guys in the boat, like I said, we can take off. It blasts off pretty good. I'm actually considering going to a 26 maybe in the springtime if I can find one, and we'll kind of play around with that a little bit. But I'm really happy with with my current setup. Now again, my 2004, it's a 2.5 liter. It's not the normal 2 liter that came out in '87. So this one has a little bit more torque, a little bit more oomph, I guess, to kind of help spin that bigger prop. And when I first bought the boat, a big piece of advice is I don't care if the guy says that it runs great and they put it on the muffs, doesn't mean anything. It really pays off to put the boat in the water and check the performance before you buy anything. I bought the boat, I paid a reasonable price for it, and the gentleman started it up and it was on the muffs and it had the telltale and water was coming out the back and it went into gear and it revved and it did all that stuff, and that was all great. So assuming that the boat you know, operated well, I went ahead and I bought seats and I started upgrading pumps and, you know, everything that you would ever want in a bass boat, from my I guess from what I could afford at the time. And so I did all that, and the first day on the water, the boat would not go above 2,000 RPMs. And I've got some other videos and some other issues that kind of diagnose what happened. Long story short is the previous owner ran the engine without any water circulating through it. He disintegrated the impeller, the water pump, and it got sucked up into the heads. Still ran the boat and overheated. I think it was piston 1 and 3 or something like that, which basically rendered the power head useless. I bought a second power head, at least from what I could find and diagnose. I went, had a gentleman by the name of Lee Sanderson, Sanderson Marine. He sells Allisons down in, I believe it was Lynchburg, Virginia. And he hooked me up. I mean, it wasn't cheap, but at the same time, it, you know, it is what it is. It's a boat. You know, bust out another 1,000, 2, 3, or 4, whatever it costs. So I drove the boat down. Lee was great. He tore the old power head off, put the new one on in about 2 days. It was a good little trip for us. And when he put this power head on, he said he, you know, pretty much stands behind all of his work. And that's been 7 years ago. And knock on wood, you know, I don't know, there's no wood knock on, but it's been a great motor for me. With the carbs, they're really easy to work on. Parts are readily available for these engines. Now, for whatever reason, I have tried to diagnose this, and my engine smokes a lot. It uses a lot of oil, which is kind of typical. These XR6s are typically known to be somewhat fair weather. They are temperamental. When it's really hot outside, when I'm saying like 95 degrees, I do have sometimes starting problems if I'm doing long runs. And so in between my fishing spots, I try to, you know, let everything cool down, and I generally don't have much of a problem. But you know, make sure that there's no, you know, ring failure and all that other stuff. I do run a lot of additives, which is from Mercury. And so that in a nutshell is my winter tournament bass boat. Again, this is a 1987 model, 18.5 or 18 foot 6 inches, and it's a good boat if anyone's looking to get a bass boat, and you know, an older one. The gel coat's generally not good on these. They really fade away because a bass boat in general, they're rode hard and put up wet, and you know, people that I suppose take care of their stuff, they last a little bit longer. But I kind of got this girl on her last leg, but she does what I needed to do. And so if you do me a favor, if you like the video, like it. If got any questions, let me know, and hit that subscribe button. Thank you.